Hey there, Sagittarius. Welcome to your reading for the week of December 8th. We're going to jump right in here. You have this card. It says emotions are running high. You also have this card that says nothing will come of the situation. So, yeah, I've told everyone we have this Mars in your sign is squaring Saturn in Pisces. And definitely, it's not like the best week of the month, I'll say that. So, I definitely feel, there could be some challenges. I'm not going to sugarcoat this week. But what I would say is December overall is very positive. It's just this week that is a little bit tricky with this Mars square Saturn thing going on. And so I would definitely keep an eye on your emotions. I've said to others that Mars square Saturn can definitely bring out that kind of like hot-headed energy or argumentative energy with other people. So I would avoid arguments, getting into fights, things like that. I would also I know it's hard, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think that it could be hard to avoid feeling frustrated this week by things because Mars square Saturn is frustration, especially when it comes to progress, right? But the trick is that, number one, we have to realize it's just a week, right? It's in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. And number two, if we don't force things to happen, if we just get into the energy of allowing, things will be much, much easier. You actually have a pretty good reading. If I'm being honest with you, I pretty much thought that your reading would be the worst. So you have that to look forward to. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? That's a good thing, Sag. We have a couple of challenges here, but, not that big of a deal. You have the King of Pentacles, the Two of Cups, and the Ace of Pentacles in the area of your current general energies. The King of Pentacles is pretty good. One thing I do like about the King of Pentacles for this week is the fact that he just kind of does what works, right? He's the card of convention. The reason he's successful is because he doubles down on what works, plain and simple. And like I said, that would probably be a very good energy for you to get into this week, is to just do what works and don't overcomplicate things. Don't try to do everything at once. And I feel if you do that, it'll be smooth sailing, right? The only problem this week is if we try to push something forward, if we try to force something to work that isn't working or whatever, right? You have the Two of Cups. Could be a little bit of love coming in for you this week. It's not like a main theme of the reading, but it is showing up here. So Two of Cups can be a perfect match. It can represent two people who are different. So it could be a person who's different than your usual type. And one thing I will say is you have the Three of Swords and the Devil. So again, it would be a good week to not force a connection. If it's working, great, let it work. If it's not working, great, stop, right? Because again, Mars square Saturn will spank us if we try to force something that isn't working. And we really need to pay attention to what's working, what's not working. The other thing is that I think this placement, especially having the Three of Swords and the Devil, it could bring up those insecurities. So what I'm talking about is let's say you text a person and they don't text you back right away, right? And that could trigger you a little bit more this week than it normally would. Again, the trick is to not get too excited about it. The trick is to realize that, hey, sometimes people are driving in their car and they don't text while they're driving, like me. Sometimes people are busy. Sometimes people are, have something going on, right? And so the trick is to not overreact to those situations. And this isn't just love that I'm talking about here. This is for everything that you're dealing with. So definitely would be a good time to, kind of cool down. You have the Ace of Pentacles. Again, one thing that I will say is that this week has been full of opportunity. So, even though there are some challenges, that doesn't mean it's all bad. So, again, I would be paying attention to any opportunities. I would also say with the Seven of Wands and the Devil, any opportunities to set yourself free from something would be opportunities that I would definitely focus on. It makes perfect sense that the Devil is coming up with the Mars square. Devil can be Saturn. Devil can be control. Mars square Saturn can absolutely, sorry, I have the hiccups now, can definitely bring up challenges when it comes to things that are controlling us. So this could be an opportunity for you to remove a controlling situation from your life. And I would take that opportunity because when we work with the energy, it makes it easier. With the King of Pentacles, you have the King of Cups. Definitely could be a person. I'm still not sure how I feel about this person. I don't like the Three of Swords and the Devil coming up right next to it, but does that mean it's bad? Not necessarily. We'll see what comes up. But it could be, a water sign with earth, earth with water, could be that type of person. I feel like there's like a difference of communication style here with the Two of Cups. So if there is a problem, it's probably going to be communication. The good news is you have the Eight of Wands and the Ace of Cups in your last row. So again, if you're meeting a person, it's probably something you can work through or communicate your way through if you don't get too excited. And, obviously the same thing needs to go for the other person as well, but we're not talking to that person. With the Two of Cups, you have the Hierophant, marriage potential. So again, if you're looking for love, definitely could be good. We'll see. I still want to clarify those other two cards to find out, but the Hierophant can be two people who are on a similar path. These two people are on a parallel path. They're going in the same direction. They have, the same things that they need to get done. And so you could be attracting someone who's maybe not exactly the same as you, but you could be on similar journeys in life, and I definitely feel that would be good. The other thing I will tell you is, again, I don't really feel this intuitively, but I would say, based off the astrology, based off the Mars square here, it would be a good time to learn. And, would anything that you want to overcome, instead, again, no forcing, right? So instead of forcing something or forcing yourself to try to overcome something, educating yourself about it instead, I think is just a little bit better of a vibe this week. With the Ace of Pentacles, you have the Ace of Swords. I mean, again, pretty good. So Ace of Swords is a victory or a big success coming in for you. If you're getting an opportunity, then I would take it. This could be the opportunity, like I said, with the Devil, to cut something out. The Ace of Swords cuts both ways, and sometimes we have to make a sacrifice with the Ace of Swords to get something better, and so you absolutely could be removing a controlling situation from your life, and it could be anything, and by removing it, you're making your life faster, and the Eight of Wands literally says that. Eight of Wands is quick success, quick conclusion, something happening fast. And we have the Devil there, so, removing something toxic would be good. Next, in the area of what's coming in for you, you have this Breathe card. Yes. You have this Flexible card. Yes, sure. The Breathe card is more important. I think everybody needs to breathe this week for sure. Like I said, it's like a little bit too excited of an energy, a little bit too much hot-headed energy. So like I said to everyone, no getting into fights, no causing issues, no none of that. Cooler heads will prevail. Being flexible is always good right now, especially next year with Uranus moving into Gemini in April. Everybody needs to be more flexible at this time. You have the Three of Swords, the Seven of Wands, and the Five of Swords. Again, if there is a problem with a person, I think it will be due to a lack of flexibility. Again, Mars square Saturn is like trying to push a boulder up a mountain, but it's not moving at all, right? And so sometimes I think we get into situations with people who are just too stubborn, and that is definitely something I would be careful of, but not just love. Pretty much anyone that you're dealing with. It doesn't say that you have to cut these people out, because again, the good thing about this placement is that the energy improves pretty quickly. So by next week, things will basically be back to normal, and I think everybody needs to know that. And so as long as you're not forcing things will be fine. You have the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands, a card of conviction. It says when you know that something is for you, it's for you. So Seven of Wands is about those deep beliefs, or developing those deep beliefs in yourself to be successful or whatever. And I feel believing in yourself more would be good. I also think, as I've said to everyone, that focusing on yourself this week might be a better option than worrying about other people. So he's drawing a line in the sand, but he's also kind of like putting up boundaries. And so having boundaries, especially with anyone in your life that already is toxic, or anyone that has bad behavior here, I think that is what you should mostly be avoiding at this time, Sag, and putting up boundaries against, and that's what I would focus on there. You have the Five of Swords. Five of Swords, again, not necessarily a good energy for this week, because Five of Swords is like trying to win at all cost. And so the reason, we consider this to be a challenging card is because, he might have hurt these people that are kind of behind him. And, it can say that you could be, there could be an opportunity for you to win something this week, but at what cost, right? And I don't know. I can't answer that question for you. Sometimes the Five of Swords is good because sometimes the Five of Swords can be about taking a risk that pays off. And, like I said, I think the energy is a little bit up in the air this week. So I would make sure that you're not, again, forcing wins. I really feel the key word this week is forcing. It's like, obviously, if you're forcing a win, then you could be hurting other people. And again, I don't know your situation, so only you know if that's true or not, right? And that's what I would be avoiding with the Five of Swords. I would also be avoiding battles with people in the first place this week. Like I said, no road rage, no flipping people off, no none of that, because it'll just create a mess and something that you could totally avoid, so I would avoid it. With the Three of Swords, you have the Eight of Wands. Communication is the solution. So again, if you're dealing with a new person, and if there's something you don't like, instead of ignoring it, I would talk about it, because I think that will probably solve the problem pretty quickly. And that's what I would focus on with the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands also wants us to remove friction from our life. So anything that is causing a blockage, and you definitely, again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, you definitely could notice more blockages this week. That's not really what's happening. The universe is just showing us things that we should clean up, right? And the way that we should be cleaning those things up with this energy is to make them smoother. So if there's something that's slowing you down or creating friction, it's like, how can you make it easier? How can you make it smoother? How can you make it better? And maybe you can only do that a tiny little bit, but just tiny little improvements add up over time. So I would be looking at the things that are holding you back with the Devil, and I would slowly, again, no need to force anything this week, I would just slowly make those improvements. Sorry, I dropped it. With the Seven of Wands, you have the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands is about being bold, assertive, confident. She moves towards the sun. So we have this sunflower right here, and the sunflower points towards the sun. So she moves towards things that bring her love, joy, peace, happiness, enlightenment, all those good feelings. But she's more living in an inspired place, right? Which I do think, if you are going to take action on things this week, coming from an inspired perspective is different than forcing it, because you feel inspired to do it, right? So anything you feel inspired by, or anything that's making you feel excited or whatever, those are definitely the things I would work on, right? Because it's more inspired. With the Five of Swords, you have the Three of Cups. Other people, like I said, so Three of Cups is your community, other people, your family. It is a good card, can represent a celebration. These three people are celebrating a harvest. But, I've been saying this to you all year. It seems to me like you are closing out a cycle with connections in your life, like just all people in your life. And again, I would make sure you're surrounding yourself with good people, of course. I would also make sure that you are, kind of surrounding yourself with those people who really lift you up. That might be a much better option at this time. Next, in the area of messages from your future self, you have this Infinite Possibilities card. It says, you're on the right path. Favorable energies are guiding you at this time. You have this Dolphin Spirit. It says, stop taking life so seriously and splash some joy in your everyday life. Again, it's a very serious week. Saturn energy, right? So maybe being more playful or enjoying yourself more would be a good idea. You have the Ace of Pentacles in this reading, which is kind of like an infinite possibilities energy. So anything you can do to open up to the energies of the universe would probably be a very good idea for you with that card, or just exploring possibilities. Again, this would be a more inspired perspective. Queen of Wands is inspired perspective. She doesn't just do things just because she needs to make progress. She does things that feel good, that feel like they will make her progress in life. And that is when we open up to this energy here. It's about not forcing. It's more about living in the flow. And I feel, kind of really nurturing that energy for you this week, Sag, would be a very good idea. Again, in the area of messages from your future self, you have the Devil, the Two of Wands, and the Nine of Cups. Devil, I would definitely be careful of Devil vibes this week, just in general. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Something doesn't feel good, don't do it. If someone seems toxic, they probably are. The list goes on and on there. The Devil represents Saturn control. This is the black box of Saturn right here. And so even though the Devil represents Saturn and Capricorn, sometimes I feel the Devil can just be Saturn energy in general. So I would be looking at control. I do actually feel it could be a good time to look at things that are controlling you and either smooth them out with the Eight of Wands, or if you can eliminate anything that is controlling you, it would also be a good time for that. So, I feel like that would be a good use of your energy. I would also be careful of other people. Again, I think everybody needs to follow this rule this month, this week, basically. And that is that if people are draining you, those are the people or the places or the things that I would avoid. The devil is a little bit of an energy vampire. He has these bat wings, like a vampire bat, and he could be stealing the energy from these people. So I would avoid things that steal energy from you. You have the Two of Wands. Two of Wands is about taking the lead and really getting out into the world. So I feel for a lot of you, you could be getting out into the world at this time or taking the lead on something that you want to see be successful. And that is also something that I would be working on with the Two of Wands, is taking the lead, getting out into the world, and making things happen. He's looking to expand his kingdom. The Eight of Wands, which you have twice, it's actually connected to the Two of Wands here twice as well. The Eight of Wands is a very expansive, forward-moving energy, and so anything you can do to expand this week, I would with that card. You have the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups can be a card of fulfillment or wish fulfillment, and I do feel it would be a good time for you to focus on wish fulfillment this week, or to get into the flow more. Sorry about that, Sag. They always leaf blow when I'm doing my readings, and they usually blow right into this window, so I had to pause because it's very loud. But we were talking about the Nine of Cups. We were talking in this row about you getting into the flow. Nine of Cups also can be making a wish. I do feel it's a good week to get in the energy of making a wish. Again, speaking of flow, we've been talking about how not to force things this week. So, a better way is to just get in alignment energetically with what you want out of the week. And, it'll be a much better energy, as I was saying, than trying to force things to happen. And that's basically what I would do with that card. With the devil, you have the Six of Swords, which is actually pretty good. The Six of Swords is choosing to move on to calmer shores. So a lot of you could just be making the choice to cut something out that's causing a problem for you this week, and you're deciding to move on to calmer shores. Again, there's another thing that's happening this week that is kind of like a little bit like moon energy, I would say. You don't have the moon here, I'm just saying that's what it's like. And where people could be doing things where it's like you don't know what the future is going to be. Sometimes I feel that with the Six of Swords, that you could be making a choice where you're not sure what the outcome of your choice is going to be. And I don't know, it's just popping into my head for you, Sagittarius, that you could be making an important decision or choice where it's like you're not really sure of the outcome, but you're probably moving towards calmer shores. So I would make that choice, whatever it is. With the Two of Wands, you have the Queen of Swords. Yeah, probably one of the best parts of this week is clarity. We're in the second week after, this is the second week after the Mercury retrograde. Mercury went direct at the end of November on the 30th. And, so this is kind of like the second week of the shadow, if you want to call it that, when the shadow ends this week. So I do feel that, we're kind of finally getting past that Mercury energy retrograde, and we could be getting some answers based off of what our next step should be. And you have the Two of Wands here. Like I said, I think I'm laughing with you, not at you, Sagittarius, by the way. But the funny thing about the Mars square Saturn is that, again, it's Mars, which is action. So it makes us want to take action on something. We can be getting answers on what to do to move forward. But the problem is that it's a Mars square Saturn, and it's like we're trying to push something that just won't budge, right? And so I think it would be a better week if you get some answers on what your next step should be, but you're finding that you're not making any progress. It would just be a good time to study what you're doing, to learn about it. It would be a good time to think about it just in general, a good time to journal about it. Anything that wouldn't be forced, right, is going to be the best thing for you. And that's what I would focus on here. It's we don't want to lose that clarity that we're gaining. So, writing about it, talking to yourself about it, talking to your head about it, all that would be good. With the Nine of Cups, you have the Six of Pentacles. Yeah, I definitely feel this energy for you of wanting more out of situations. Nine of Cups is making more, needing to wish for something. And sorry, apparently they're going around my house twice today. But anyway, the Six of Pentacles can just be a little bit of something. And the Six of Pentacles sometimes, I think with the Nine of Cups can represent wanting more out of a situation. But this is not like from a perspective of greed or anything like that. This is more just, knowing that you could get more out of something. And the Six of Pentacles is planting seeds. So he is giving to this person, not this person, and he's giving to what grows. And I feel like that's how you could get more out of something. Like, let's say your job, let's say you want more. It's like, well, maybe planting a seed means you have to ask, or maybe it means that you have to stand out more so that you can get a raise or promotion or something like that. I think it's a good time for asking for things. You have the Eight of Wands twice. So, and again, this isn't just work. Like if you need more love or more attention or whatever, I would just speak up about it with this card for sure. Next, in the area of the good stuff, you have this focus card. It says, it's difficult to be productive when your energy is scattered in so many different directions. You have this daydream card. It says, having your head in the clouds can be a source of great inspiration, but be careful when your fantasy becomes an escape from reality. Both coming up in the good stuff. Focus, of course, is good with the Queen of Swords. Staying focused, picking a focus. Eight of Wands, same thing. We have the Eight of Wands in the area of the good stuff. All those wands are pointing in one direction. They are pointing at one thing. And so having a focus to think about or focus on is going to make this week a lot smoother for you, Sagittarius, and probably a lot easier. I also, again, Eight of Wands very specifically wants us to focus on friction. Anything that's causing friction, can we smooth it out? Can we make it easier? And the Eight of Wands came up a lot this week because this week is friction for sure. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, like I said. But that doesn't mean it has to be a bad week. Like I said, we just have to focus on correcting the friction or removing it or anything that's causing friction, making it easier. And if we do that, we'll have a smooth sailing. If we don't, then we'll be pushing a boulder up a mountain. So don't be that person, right? You have the Three of Pentacles. I'm pretty sure you always get the Three of Pentacles with me, Sagittarius. So, Three of Pentacles, of course, says teamwork makes the dream work. It can be about putting your work on display as well. He is displaying the work that he has done. I think that's what I always say to you, is that it seems to me like it would be a good time for you to put your work on display or to show off. I feel like that's where your financial success could be coming from in the near future. So definitely something I would, think about with the Three of Pentacles. Three of Pentacles can also represent, speaking of this week, speaking about not forcing things, we have this water triangle here, or this fire triangle, sorry, and this water triangle right below it. The water triangle is, he kind of added something a little bit extra special to the project to make it stand out. That's what the water he added his own inspiration, his own creativity into the project. He went just a little bit above and beyond. That is, I think, would be an amazing energy this week for really everyone, but you're the only person that's getting this message this week. So what I'm talking about is, if you've already done work on a project or a business or something you're going to launch into the world, the Three of Pentacles says, instead of forcing it or trying to, make people buy it or whatever, it's is there something that you can do to make it just stand out just a little bit extra? Can you make it sparkle, whatever it is that you're working on? This includes yourself, if you're trying to find love or whatever, it would be something just small that you would add to something to make it stand out. And again, I don't know what all of you are doing, so I don't have any good examples, but it's I would really think about that, especially if you're putting something on display this week, or let's say you have to give a presentation at work or something like that. If you just a little bit of thinking here, I think could make all the difference. You have the Ace of Cups flow, which we talked about in your third row. Ace of Cups can easily reach down into the water below it and get into the flow and cause itself to overflow. So the more in the flow you can be this week, the better, especially because this square, Mars is in your sign, like I said at the beginning of the reading. It's going to be extra important for you, Sagittarius, to really focus on that. With the Eight of Wands, you have the Five of Swords. Five of Swords in the good stuff. We talked about this with the Five of Swords with the Three of Cups, but Five of Swords in the good stuff can represent taking a risk. So if there are any good risks that you can take, I would take those risks. They will probably pay off. With the Three of Pentacles, you have the Ace of Cups. Again, like I said, it's like whatever you're adding to a project, it's like you have two options, right? You can try to force things to happen and work extra hard on a project, or you could just make it appear like you worked extra hard on it, right? And that's what I'd focus on with the Three of Pentacles. If you're doing anything this week, it's like how there are probably things you can do to enhance what you've done already without much more work, right? And that is the focus. With the Ace of Cups, you have the Ten of Wands. Ten of Wands is forcing things to happen. He is obligated to do this work, right? The Ace of Cups is the total opposite. Ace of Cups is being in the flow. It is doing something that you could do endlessly, and because the Ace of Cups can fill itself back up. So your reading's pretty simple as always, Sagittarius. I would just focus on the flow. You have this Seahorse card. It says Family Matters all year. I'm pretty sure all year you've been getting this card, or there's a million family cards in all these decks. So, you know, you always get these cards of like focusing on family and healing things with the family. You have this 4-leaf clover. It says great good fortune on it. So there you go. Again, even though this placement is challenging, I always like to remind people, it's like sometimes the most challenging things in astrology are the things that lead to the best outcome or lead to something amazing. I always tell people it's like a lot of famous people have very difficult astrology in their charts, right? Like Oprah is one that I can think of. Her chart is not very easy, and you could say she's had some difficulties in her life, but still, you know, she worked with the energy, whether she realized it or not. So, you know, this could be very lucky for you. You have this turkey. It says someone is behaving stupidly. Yeah, it's the number one thing that I've been warning people about this week is other people, because that's probably where the problems are going to come from. You know, when you think about it, you know, most of the time people are just projecting their frustration. It is a very frustrating energy this week. So, you know, no arguments. I would just avoid stupid people. You'll be fine. You have this table. It says hard work ahead. Not this week, though, is what I'm going to say, Sag. Hard work after this week, fine. But this week, I would keep it simple. You have this dark woman. It says dealings with relationships with a woman with dark complexion or hair. You have the staff card. It says you will be taken care of in difficult times. So you'll be perfectly fine this week. But this looks pretty good, better than I thought, for sure. So thank you for being here. Make sure to like, leave a comment, and definitely enjoy your week.